listening to the Coffee Podcast. I'm Jesse Hartman. This is the story of specialty coffee designer. This series is sponsored by Savor Brands, a company that specializes in custom packaging for coffee brands. In this episode, we speak with its founder and CEO, Patrick Lau, about the role of quality packaging in the storytelling of specialty coffee. I was amazed at how little I considered the importance of these hands in the larger story of specialty coffee, and I think you will agree, presenting the coffee to people without having someone there to tell the story means the packaging is responsible for telling that story. So in this episode, the title uses the role designer as a catch-all for talking about package and design. The idea of a designer here is a bit abstract in the sense that it takes a lot of hands to tell the story through packaging. And so the episode is a bit unique. We open the conversation with Patrick to learn his story and the gist of packaging and design, and later we invite Metric's Xavier Alexander to the chat to get more context on the process. Patrick, thank you for joining me. We're going to talk about some cool stuff. I'm excited to get your story a little bit. So just for context, we're trying to tell the full story of coffee all the way from seed to, we say cup, but like beyond the cup to the consumer and communicating story kind of through each part of the chain. So I'm really excited to talk to you about story because y'all have a huge part to play in story. But before we get there, what is Savor Brands? Like just give us what's your elevator pitch?
Elevator pitch.
Yeah.
Savor Brands is a company that provides different types of experiences. Could be through packaging, could be through our nonprofit Pono Collective. It could be through just working with customers, helping them to get themselves to where they want to be in the marketplace. It's about helping people.
Okay.
That's basically it.
Okay,
Simple as that.
It sounds like y'all do more than bag design. Can you give me kind of like, I don't know, like I don't have any idea of anything about coffee.
Okay.
I know I need to get my coffee in a bag. Okay. That's all I know. So why would I need to approach y'all and get some help?
For us, it's all about understanding the customer, spending time with them to be able to extract as much as we can to make them portray themselves as authentic as possible.
Okay.
And that's something that's required in terms of just taking the characteristic of the company, the brand, or the person behind the brand, or the people behind the brand, and to portray that in anything that they do, just to get them in that mindset of being who they are. For us, that's what separates us from a typical job shop where all they want to do is grab something and print it. That's kind of what you get with working with us.
Yeah, and I think when we think of Metric, like there's a lot of story to be told. Like I've talked to Xavier, he's been on the show before, and we've got to know just like how important story is to him and how important relationship is. And so communicating those elements for him, choosing Savor Brands for doing that. And y'all have been working together for 10 years, is that right?
Right.
And so I'm trying to think like, in some world where I'm releasing coffee to the world, like what I put on the bag is really important.
Right.
And the way that it's understood, like who I'm working with and who's trying to communicate that stuff.
Right.
So like you might know a person, knowing a brand and what a brand is about, like kind of the group knowingness of a brand, if that makes sense. I don't know, I'm getting into weird territory. I want to learn a little bit about you. Okay. So your background, equity derivatives, I have no idea what that is. I know that Ryan does. How did you go from equity? Well, what is equity derivatives? Maybe short story.
I was a finance guy. I was in Hong Kong trading index options and futures in the Hong Kong market, and that was a lot of fun. That was in my 20s, all the way through to when we had kids and we wanted to move home. So what we did was, my wife and I, we wanted to move home. So our son was at 6 months at the time. Accepted a job at home at a hedge fund, but then 9/11 happened, and then that was that, and we decided we wanted to stay home. So as a result of trying to figure out how to stay home, then I had family in the Orient doing packaging, and I'm like, this is great. I think we could go at this, and then Savor Brands began.
Okay, and you just talked about how intentional Savor Brands is about the personality of the brands that you work with.
Right.
Is that just part of who you are? How did that come about, like the philosophy?
For us, it's about values.
Okay.
We want to work with people that have the same values. Okay. And a huge part of what we do is predicated on living pono, working pono, and in Hawaiian, pono means to do the right thing.
Okay.
Doing the right thing is at the foundation of everything that we do. We don't want to make and put ourselves in any type of awkward positions or make decisions that actually jeopardizes living and working pono. So that's what you get when you work with us. It's a little very different. Cool. It doesn't allow us to scale as quickly as possible. We grow as quickly as we're comfortable with, and with the partners that we're able to work with.
Nice. Okay, I have just kind of a businessy question. You switched careers.
Yes.
That's a big move for anybody, right? Going from the thing that you know to the thing you don't know so good. And did you have any moments, I kind of did a two-parter here, did you have any moments where you're like, wow, this is going to work. This is going to work out. It's going to be great. And also, did you have any moments that were like, this is horrible and I hate it and I don't know?
It's, when you start off a business and you're an entrepreneur, you have to give yourself at least 5 years.
Okay.
If you hit it big, like right from the get-go, that's very rare. Those are the things that we read about in newspapers or online. So it was year 3 where we broke even, and we thought, you know what, this could actually work. So 3 years of pain, essentially. And then year 5 where we're doing pretty decent. We're doing pretty well. But I think what resonates the most is the fact that as long as you can kind of fulfill a need, help people, and at the same time be who you are, that really drives home this, just, I guess, part of the element of success.
Okay. I just want to understand some of the perspective of Savor Brands, like the importance of packaging and how it plays a role. I have some of my own answers. Let me just spit them out, and then maybe you can correct them or change them. So I would think a bag, as a consumer, a bag has to catch my eye. There's a lot of specialty coffee on the shelves these days, right? So it has to capture my eye, okay? But then once it's captured my eye, it's got to do something else. There's things that it needs to do. I see the line of saying, it needs to be true and authentic and communicate that. But what are the core things you think have to capture the consumer and keep the consumer to the point to where they want to buy the coffee?
Right. So when you're, from a grocery standpoint, where you're walking down the aisles, you maybe have 5 seconds to catch someone's eye. So a lot of times you can use that through branding, making sure that your brand is bold, beautiful, and you could do that by specific print techniques that we've had. We've brought these, the shimmers out, transparent inks, all these different types of methods of printing to actually draw attention to the package. Since we first started, many have started to emulate what we've done, which is great because what that does is it uplifts the industry. What we see now is, in terms of, say, for example, Metric, they wanted just to go with a nice, bold, just brand in terms of no fuss. You just see Metric on the side of the package, and that's in the simplicity of what they do, but at the same time, how they extract their brand to make it, stand out. So there's many different ways, but what you see with Xavier and Metric and Darko at Metric, all you see is just Metric itself, that your eyes normally just gravitate towards it, and it's awesome.
Nice. So obstacles. Say I'm a coffee brand, I come to you and I say, I want to do a coffee podcast bag of coffee, okay? And I have a vision. What kinds of obstacles can we expect? Challenges in trying to accomplish the visions, typical things you run into.
So essentially, the main thing is we have to find a great designer that fits what you would like to achieve and basically kind of mesh out to who you are.
So a designer dedicated to my brand project.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, that's really important. Once you have that, then they're able to extract the spirit of who the Coffee Podcast is, right? Okay. That's the journey that you would begin on. Okay. And then from there, slowly, we work together, and obviously at Savor Brands, we never want to print anything ugly, so we will give unsolicited advice just to make sure that the package we print is beautiful on the shelves.
Yeah. I work for a company, they call it Creative Discontent, okay? So it's a nice...
There you go.
I hate, that looks ugly. I like that. So you mentioned Savor Brands is a pioneer in this space, or you kind of alluded to it. You've done some things that other companies have been like, oh, we should do that too. What are some of those things that you've done that you're like, this was kind of groundbreaking? Or
Sure.
Yeah.
I mean, nothing that we do is ever groundbreaking. It's just being creative.
Okay.
Right? Looking at things differently and making everyone being able to achieve what they want on their package, right? So we're the first to do wallpaper inside the package, inside a bag.
That's pretty
so
cool.
You open it up. I mean, Metric actually was one of the early adopters of that in their earlier bags. It was absolutely gorgeous. We also have augmented reality in packaging for coffee. We've done that a few times. We won the SCA's Best New Packaging Award like 3 times, and then we decided that that's it. We don't.
Let's end on the high note.
We shouldn't do this anymore because it's not fair, right? So there's many different things that we've done. So we've kind of normalized transparent inks. We've done a lot of just challenges in terms of artists bringing us their artwork, and we just tell them, you know what, we're just going to figure this out, right? And I think that's the magic.
Yeah,
that's the magic.
Yeah, I'm seeing there's a lot more to it. You know, I'm a bit of an ignorant person sometimes, or a lot of the times. But like when I think of packaging coffee, it's like what you said before. I send a design and the company prints it on bags that I also chose. Right. And it's just like, and maybe it shows up and I go, wow, okay, well, I guess this is what we got 5,000 of these, you know?
Right. Yeah. You don't want to be stuck with stuff like that, right? So,
yeah.
And it's continuing to innovate, think of things new. You'll see at this year's show, our packaging, we have just released our compostable package.
Nice.
So you'll see it's 100% industrial compostable, but what we've seen, the industry has seen, is a lot of greenwashing prior to that, where they're not getting their entire laminate, entire materials all certified together.
Oh, interesting.
They'll just use different pieces that's compostable, but when you combine all these layers together, is it still 100% compostable?
So testing it once the bag is complete versus testing the components.
Correct.
Interesting.
Correct. So
wow.
that's something where we actually held off on doing to make sure that we don't want to sacrifice the freshness of the coffee, right? Because studies have shown 3% of the carbon footprint of packaged coffee is just the package itself. 97% is the transportation of the green coffee all the way from origin to the roasters here, and then we roast it and then package it. So for us, it's always been about making sure that the coffee is protected, it's fresh when it gets to the consumer, and that's basically it. And it doesn't make any sense to sacrifice the 3%.
Yeah.
And the 97% for the 3.
That's an interesting.
Right?
Yeah. You could have come out the gates greenwashing, done a process you weren't authentic about, right?
Right.
So it's maintaining that authentic kind of strand or the DNA of being authentic.
Right.
That we see.
Right.
Yeah, because I don't know if you have received criticism, but you could have, right? Somebody showing up and saying, "Hey, where are your compostables? You all don't care about the earth, you know?"
Right. We do, but we care about the coffee, the carbon footprint, right?
Right. With
that is generated, right?
Protecting coffee that doesn't get returned or fussed about because it makes a lot of sense. Makes a lot of sense.
So that's what we did, and then from that we actually, with our the original packaging in terms of the aluminum barrier protecting the coffee, what we did was we wound up taking that back, and we can actually reprocess and repurpose it through our R+R program. So we have a take-back program. It's in 37 states, and we found partners that can actually take the coffee bags that we have and upcycle them.
Interesting. Now I have some questions about who you work with, because I've seen.
Yes.
Do you mind if I ask you?
No.
Do you work with Tweed out of Dallas?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. So Tweed out of Dallas. For context, I drink a lot of Tweed because they're my local houndstooth.
That's great.
You get it. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so they do the take back program. I do it, and they give us a discount when we bring back the bag and buy another. Like, here's a percentage off your next bag.
Right.
It's a really great thing because it gets everybody involved. With doing the right thing.
And that's the whole exactly. And that's Pono, right? Yeah. And it's circular, right? It's circular. So it brings you in. We have an end of life solution. It's incredible.
So you have suppliers for the materials. Mm-hmm. Have you run into any challenges with finding the right supplies or issues with packaging? Like, is that a challenge for y'all? Or
no, for us, it's about just working with the right people, right? Okay. From a value standpoint, from just a mindset. So everything that we've done, all our manufacturing, it's been pretty smooth. From a logistics standpoint, we're very, very fortunate to be working with the partners that we have. Nice. So all across the chain, we know that we are an important part of the roasters in terms of them doing business, having the right packaging to get out there. So we make sure that we take care of these things.
Very cool. Well, we just got some closing questions here. What are you working on right now, and how can listeners, so people listening to the podcast, how can they be a part of that?
Right now, what we're working on is that's really exciting is Savor Live. It's our technology in terms of mobile app all the way through to soft POS, which is a point of sale within the cafe, so self-service kiosks. We're making that available to all our partners. That's been an endeavor that actually brings me back into the finance world that I was part of. And what it is we've created a platform that essentially we allow our roasters and partners to be able to create their own branded white label app. You can download it from the iOS or Google Play Store.
Oh, wow. Okay.
It feeds right into their point of sales. If they have, like, say, Square, they have Square, or we can use our own kiosks. That's what we're working on to fulfill the needs. And within that mobile app, there's also a subscription module.
Okay.
So that anyone with coffee subscriptions can actually run it off all on mobile.
Wow.
We're just focusing on our phones and using our phones all the time, right?
Yeah,
so you might as well do
yeah.
your coffee subscriptions off your phone. So,
Yeah, cool. Very cool.
I believe we're the first ones that are actually have that feature on a mobile app.
Wow. Very cool. Wait, it's out now.
It's out. It's at the show. We're launching it here.
We got to check it out.
Yeah,
We'll have to get some
sure.
footage of that. So now here's kind of the last question for you. I like to let you choose. What's the best piece of advice you've ever received? Okay. You can tell us, what do you want the main takeaway to be for our listeners about the role of something like Savor Brand does for coffee companies? What role does it play? What's the biggest takeaway from that? Or you can answer the newer question, which is, what is something that you have unlearned lately? And the idea of unlearning is you held a belief and you changed your mind. And you know what I mean? Like you held a belief and changing your mind had an impact in your life.
Right.
So those are the options.
So what we unlearned, I guess, that's being vulnerable, right?
Yeah.
That's being vulnerable, right?
I'm glad you went with it. That's one of my favorite questions.
So basically, previously, I guess we're extremely, as the owners of Savor Brands, my wife and I, we're very low profile. We don't go out and do anything, right? But what we have learned is that, for example, let's say like this greenwashing that comes up, right?
Yeah.
Sooner or later, you have to kind of just put that aside in terms of being kind of incognito per se, right? And associate and actually get out there and fight for what we believe in. But in doing that, you cannot do that in a covert fashion, right? So you have to kind of put yourself out there, open yourself up to criticism if there is criticism, right?
Yeah.
And that's one of the things that we're kind of working on getting better at and doing and getting out there so that everybody can kind of understand everything that we do as a company, as people, to try and make this place better.
Awesome.
Everything that we do.
Well, very cool. Well, thank you for joining me for the conversation.
All right. Awesome.
Looking forward to seeing some of the stuff on the floor.
I wanted to understand the dance between a designer, a roaster, and packaging a little better, so we met with Patrick and Xavier outside of Metric in Chicago right before their Specialty Coffee Expo party.
Okay, I'm really excited to talk about storytelling from two different perspectives here and the power of communicating design as a part of that, what's on a package as part of that.
Sure.
But really through y'all's relationship. We talk a lot about relationship coffee, or Ben said earlier, friends and then business, and I feel like I'm hearing a lot of that throughout all of these conversations. So help me understand, actually, where did y'all meet? What's that story? And then tell me a little bit about how we got into where we are today. So who wants to start? Let's go ahead and start. Yeah.
Well, we met at a show. We met Darko first, and then I think we met you like right after.
It was right, yeah.
At the same time, actually.
You and Darko met, and he
Yeah.
said, "You got to come meet this guy. You got to come and talk to him." So because at the moment our packaging was not good. Like whatever we had going on was.
Describe it. What did it
was?
look like?
I
had
hate
a lot
to
of
say
triangles.
subpar. Yeah, it was just like
triangles.
Yeah, pixelated, and
it was
you know,
good.
like
Those are
we.
cool.
Yeah, it was
It was
just
not bad.
It was
not
fine.
bad.
I mean, it was a good effort for the time, but we wanted to elevate our packaging and also the feel and really the quality. So that's how we went over to talk to Patrick and immediately saw samples, talked to him.
Was that at like an SC Expo kind of thing?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. About what year was that? That's like 10 years ago, right? Or
Well, we're a
Close.
10-year-old company, so but it was like
Probably
maybe-
like 2018,
Okay.
2017 maybe.
Okay.
yeah, I think that sounds
Was that
right.
at Seattle or something?
It was Seattle.
It was
It
Seattle.
was.
I
Yeah.
I was pretty sure I was at that one. Wow,
Yeah,
I was
yeah.
around.
Yeah.
Okay, and so triangles to something else. And I mean, metric, I mean, you think of like the way that things look today, very clean, very like straightforward, it's bold. There's
Yeah.
like communication is
Beautiful
I don't know,
brand.
yeah, it's beautiful. The vision, what was the vision? So it was triangles to,
Yeah.
and how did the vision develop?
Well, you know, I'll give you more
shapes.
context. So we had some geometric shapes in our packaging, and it was a digital print. You know, it served this purpose, but we wanted to have something that, you know, I mean, we know the difference between something that's plate printed versus digital, and really for us, it was just no brainer. Like we wanted to go with something that really spoke of the quality of the coffees we're sourcing, and so that was the draw to Savor Brands. But we hired a designer, actually it was maybe a year or two later, we hired a designer who really helped us explore exactly what we wanted to convey in our rebrand. And one of the things we chose to do was to remove the coffee, so then we vertically added a metric to the side of the bag, label, and just a couple other little sort of design elements. But the cooler thing that I was excited about that they could do was that they could create a haptic feel to the bag, which I didn't know what that meant. Actually, if you could talk about what that
The
is.
cool part about what Metric did was they put so much emphasis so that once people saw the packaging, they just see the brand, right? From there, your eyes are supposed to go there first in any type of package. And then afterwards, it kind of migrates over to the label of where the coffee's from.
Okay.
And then after they do that, then they pick it up. And then from there, having that haptic feel that elevates it and gives them sensory.
okay,
right, in
this is
terms of
really
quality,
really
right?
interesting. Yeah, the sensory elements
Right.
of sight.
Yes.
To like, I don't know, I'm picturing like seeing a beautiful flower in a field and wanting to pick it. I don't know.
No,
Yeah,
that's
like
it.
so going
That
from
is it.
sight and then to feeling and
Yeah.
the smell of the coffee.
And then it just goes right, it
it's like
flows right into the smell. So then the way we set it up, or the way they had set it up, that's basically exactly how you're supposed to do it. Branding 101, right?
Okay.
But unfortunately, people kind of lose that. But Xavier folks and Darko, they just, boom, nailed it.
Well, no, I feel like the way Metric does everything is very meticulous. It's like very intentional. We've had a few conversations now, and I'm like, everything is thoughtful and relational. So let's talk a little bit about the producer and the producer's relationship to what ends up on the bag, and also the roaster. And I didn't mention the trader or the person in between.
Yeah.
But I'm curious, like, how all these hands in coffee end up somehow communicating on the bag. Do they end up on the bag, or what's the thinking behind something like that? I mean, from a Metric perspective, but also in your opinion, Patrick, what should that look like in your?
Exactly what they're doing right now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Exactly what they're doing right now.
Can you talk us through?
Yeah,
what's
so
the
in our
thinking?
packaging, we kind of keep the information. I mean, we do give you the altitude, we give you the process. I mean, we think that's definitely important. Variety is also really important. So that is all conveyed in all of our bags. But of course, like to not clutter the bag with a ton of information. And that's one thing that I see in some packaging that personally for me it's not really like sort of the way I would approach it, where they apply like brewing specs and like ethos and like it's just sort of like so what I always say that it's like it reminds me of what a peacock is, like it's just all these feathers and it's like smoke and mirrors to a certain degree. And again, that's not to throw shade on anybody, because people should do, brands should pursue their vision through packaging, and so like whatever speaks to them, and if it expresses their values and the quality of the product, awesome. I am a huge fan. For us, removing the coffee, saying coffee, because we know that the public knows it's coffee. Like we understand that they know that.
Yeah.
So that's
that real estate's really important on the bag. It's reminding me, I take too many things to poetry these days, but like a haiku, you only have so many words to work with and syllables. It's kind of like, don't overload your package, treat it a little bit like a haiku. Like you're intentional about the words and the things that end up there. It's really, I don't know, maybe that's left field. But
No, it's not. It's about having authenticity, right?
Okay.
So everybody has their own narrative, their own story, and it's about telling that story.
Yeah. And so let's say producer specifically, like what is the thinking behind maybe the early days back when you were doing shapes? How did you treat producers on bags or on bags at all or anything like that? And is it different now? And how is that?
I mean, it's a little different. I mean, it's similar in the sense that we had similar information, but I think that the way that it was design back then, it was a little more confusing, whereas like we were able to work with a designer. I mean, that's really the thing here. It's like working with a designer that gets the vision and understands this is what we want to convey, but we don't know how to get there. Help us get there. And so that's what they did. And really the result was just having, now we have a system of labeling, and obviously the packaging is all static, so that all the information is the same, but the label changes based on producer. And because transparency is a part of our values as a company, we definitely want to really let the public know where it's coming from. We want to have it be traceable back to the producer. And so that's incredibly important that the package is able to bolster that. Nice. And then of course, any other extra information you can get on the website.
Right. Yeah. Okay. Nice. Yeah. That's an interesting point. Yeah. Focus on the design. Let the vision inform the designer who can bring it to fruition. Yeah. And then I like what you said. There's always the website. Like you could just pack. You could pack. I mean, maybe you should have strategy, but you could put anything else on the website. Yeah. That's a really. Anyway, it's really interesting.
Less is more.
Less is more in the bag. Probably less is more in general. Kind of as a final part of our just group chat here. Biggest lessons in bag stuff for you, and then I want to hear from your perspective next.
I love that question. I mean, it's specifically when it comes to packaging, is having a packaging partner that you can rely on to deliver the quality that you want to convey season after season. So because I'll say that we ship our product. I mean, we roast and deliver locally, but we ship it all across the United States, sometimes internationally. So the integrity of the product, the packaging, and the product needs to be maintained. And so if the quality of the material is not up to the standards of the quality of the coffee, like they both need to kind of meet each other, then what the consumer or the customer is going to end is with a bag that's, there's something defective, or it's not really holding up in transit. Those are really key things to consider. And so we have that relationship with Savor, which is why we continue to work, year after year until the wheels fall off. So,
quality sounds like quality throughout. And you've mentioned before, Patrick, already, like that idea of putting this coffee that's been so hardly worked for. People put so much work into that coffee to maintain quality all throughout the chain, and then to put it in a bag that's going to lose something. Is like
that doesn't make sense.
Yeah,
right?
It doesn't make sense.
You don't want to sacrifice that. And again, you want to minimize self-inflicted pain. If you use something that's quality, gets to the customer. They know it's amazing. It helps the entire brand. It helps elevate everything, really.
This is also kind of opening the door for me to think too about like cost for a retail roaster as well. Like goes up because you want to put your coffee in a bag that tells the story, so people pick it up, and once they pick it up, they like what they picked. Right? There's all these things.
That's everything.
And there's going to be an additional cost there that you have to choose. And so it's a interesting way to think about the sustainability of like a business. Like I need people to pick up my bags, I need them to enjoy the look and the feel, and when they open it, it needs to still be fresh coffee, like it needs to maintain its integrity. So there's a lot here. I feel like bags don't get talked about enough. Maybe a little bit.
Yeah.
It's all a part of the sensory, and it's just kind of bringing everything out from the aesthetics all the way through to pushing the coffee through the valve, and you smelling it, and then you're like, wow, this smells really awesome, so you want to take it home.
And the art too. So many people in coffee are artists, and I feel like the bag. I mean, the SCA recognizes bag design and things like that. Y'all know this, and so I think just like generally we should think more about what we're putting on our bags and that kind of stuff. So anyway, y'all have any final thoughts you want to share? Any major takeaways from bag, coffee, anything like that?
Yes, I'm trying to let me put this together in a way that's might need to edit a little bit here and there, but it'll come out. It'll come out. It's amazing to have where packaging has come from, where it was, and to where it is now, and to where it could potentially be. Which I don't have an insight on that. I think Patrick can speak more about where packaging is going, but where it is now and where I hope it goes is really exciting. And I know that if it wasn't for having access to the type of material and packaging, and also like with everyone that was involved in helping us create the metric that we know today, I don't know if we would experience the level of success that we have. So for us, it just required for us to get out of that comfort zone, and I'll say, like in the beginning, we feared change. because we didn't want the public to like see us wavering. It's like, waver, like you stick with the design. You have to, I mean, at least that's kind of the design 101. It's like you think of Coca-Cola, you stick with it and it's the same logo. But ultimately, like we have to realize we are not Coca-Cola and will never be Coca-Cola. So that's not the goal. So then we should be open to change. And if that change brings us to a place where the colors or the material or the style, whatever it might be, it's good to have access to people that can help us dream those things. So when we call Patrick with our silly ideas or whatever it is, it's always like, yeah, let's look into that. Yeah, I think we could do that. So that's a great benefit, and we're just so thankful for that access. So yeah,
and to be included as part of the process, that's also fun too, right? Yeah. So part of the process is just to discover and find out, who the brand really is, essentially, through this journey.
Oh, interesting.
Because that's why you go through sometimes you go through 2-3 changes, right? Until you arrive at a look that you know what, this is me. This is us, right? And we're going to hit the marketplace with this.
That's cool, yeah.
And going back to authenticity, that's something to be proud of and
nice.
Going forward with that.
It's some kind of beautiful to think about. Like you just said, like you've kind of been on this journey with Metric and understanding the brand. In a way, you have like a very personal window into,
right,
over the last 10 years.
And that's what it is. It's all about the relationship. It's all about understanding what they would like. Hey, you know what? We got this great idea, or they have something to bring to us, and we're just working out together, knowing that, you know what? It could succeed, it could fail, and it's just about working together to get it to where we want it to be, which is like right now.
Nice, cool. Thanks, y'all. Good chat. We'll just close it out. Yeah,
appreciate it.
I don't know how you close that kind of conversation. and we're done.
Next time you go to the grocery store or anywhere else selling bags of coffee, take a look at the bag. Pick it up, turn it around, do a handstand. That last part was just to see if you're still listening. And apply what you learned here to your observation. And if it strikes you, share some of your favorites and why over on Instagram at The Coffee Podcast or a direct email at info@thecoffeepodcast.org. If you want to see the bags we discussed on this episode in action, head on over to Metric's website and buy up a bag potentially grown by Ben, maybe exported by Maria Gracia or Jose, imported by Tim, maybe roasted by Hara himself, and packaged with the team at Savor Brands. Oh, and I almost forgot, there is a discount if you go over there to Metric's website and put in the code COFFEEPOD. I'll put that in the description below. Next up, our final episode in the series where we talk with a special guest about the wonderful people at the end of the chain. Thanks for tuning in, and as always, and until next time, happy brewing.